welcome to another episode of SitM Podcast. I'm your host, Uncle AK. Man, we're just gonna get right into it. Today, man, one of my guys, man. But let me be professional. Let me not act like, let me say one of my guys. Let me be professional. He is the founder of Babila Law LLC, an immigration law firm, practice limited to federal immigration law. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Babila Terence, my immigration lawyer, to SitM Podcast. Welcome, bro, to SitM Podcast.
Thank you very much, brother. It's good to be here.
Yeah, man. I know we've been talking about having this episode for a minute, you know what I mean? So, not to take up much of your time, I know you're a very busy man. I mean, follow your Instagram. Follow your Instagram. Follow your Instagram. No what we'll discuss, but I take up much of your time, Right. On SitM, man, like, we hear a lot about, as an African, lawyer, doctor, engineer, disgrace to the family, you just fit right into that, into that mix. Like you picked one of them. Like you didn't even look outside of the box. Maybe you did, maybe you did not. I don't know, but we'll uncover that. My question to you is, was this your picking or was this, your parents picking? Talk to us about that.
That is an interesting question, but again, once more, thank you for having me. But yeah, that question is very interesting, and I don't know if my example is going to be the best example, because I just so happen to be from a family of 3 kids. My oldest brother is an engineer, my sister's a doctor, and well, I'm a lawyer.
Look at that.
So I mean, I don't know. Again, like I said, I don't know if it's my example is the greatest one, but it was my pick. I pretty much decided to be an attorney. And believe it or not, it came out of a movie. I can remember walking into my dad watching a movie in the living room. And I don't know what movie it is. I keep saying it's The Firm with Tom Cruise. I'm not sure if it was, but I remember there was just the one scene with a guy leaning on a black Lincoln or a car like that. And then his driver comes up to him with like a coffee and a newspaper, and opens a door for him. He gets in and sits down. And I remember asking my dad, I was like, what does he do? And my dad was like, he's a lawyer. Obviously I didn't know the difference between a lawyer and an attorney back then, but my dad was like, he's a lawyer. And so from that day, I was just like, yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer. I just kept saying it. And I guess I said it long enough to the point that I actually started believing it. And then, yeah, we are. So, but it was my pick, even though I come from a traditional, or not a traditional, that's not the word, more like I come from a family that created an engineer, a doctor, and a lawyer.
Right. I mean, I personally like to say the traditional African route, because if you're not in that mix, man, you're a disgrace to the family, or yet now that they are opening more to the arts, music, art, painting, all those different things. But you did say something very interesting there, which I myself, without you saying that, I'll probably sitting here still thinking that it's the same thing. What is the difference between a lawyer and an attorney?
Oh, okay. So a lawyer is just somebody who went to law school. Somebody who went to law school is a lawyer. But to be an attorney, you need to be barred in you need to be barred in a jurisdiction, which means you need to have taken the bar and passed the bar and be admitted to the bar. So that's the difference between a lawyer and an attorney. So I have many lawyers who are not attorneys, but every attorney I know is a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And you are an attorney?
I'm an attorney, yes.
Man, listen, I have a question somewhere down for this one, but before that, a lot of people probably saying, who is this guy? Man, who is Babila Terence, man? For those who do not know, who are you?
I'm originally from Cameroon, as you know. I went to school there, then went to school in South Africa as well. Moved here in 2015. I took the bar in 2016 and got admitted to the New York bar, New York State in 2017, actually September 13th. I'm rounding up an anniversary. I have an anniversary around the corner. But yeah, so I used to live in Douala. I hail from humble beginnings, I would say, and still very humble at this point. But I mean, that's just my background. I love what I do. Obviously, I enjoy it so much. I think that if I wasn't into law, I probably would have been into something more artistic. I want to say music, but I tried that for a little bit. It didn't work out too well. But, I mean, that's just me. I enjoy having a good time. Obviously enjoy reading quite a bit, even though I don't think I read anything outside of law books nowadays. But, I mean, this is just my general passions.
I mean, why would you when you have, a lot of cases, right in front of you? How would you leave that to go read something else?
I mean, to be fair, the practice is not really something that you can, I guess, dissociate reading from, right? Like in everything that we do, we just read tons and tons of documents, right? So
yeah,
obviously, it's something which we have to do, but to be able to find time to do the other reading, like I used to enjoy reading literature growing up. I was actually very good in literature. I used to enjoy all of that stuff, enjoy screenplay and all that stuff, but now I just can't. I just don't have the bandwidth for any of that. Yeah, so I just have to focus on my. You're
always taking flights here, there. Try to solve this there, try to solve that there. I'm like,
right, in a nutshell.
I mean, where do you have time to even go and sit and be, popping these bottles? But anyways, let's not say too much. Listen, man. There's so many different practices, right?
Right.
In law, you could have been a criminal lawyer, you could have been, a marriage lawyer or a divorce lawyer rather, but you picked immigration law. Why? What was your what was your why?
Oh man, that is a very interesting question. To be honest, I never ever saw myself practicing immigration law until I got into immigration problems myself, and I kind of like had to wiggle my way around it. And so like I said earlier, I took the bar in 2016. Now, what I didn't say is at the time I took the bar, I haven't just left Cameroon and applied for asylum in the United States. I didn't have papers at all. Like I had nothing. I didn't even have a US driver's license, which I could use. And I just happened to have lost my passport a couple of months prior. So I was in a position where I had to reach out to the Bar Association and ask them basically if they could carve out an exemption for me to not show the actual ID, which obviously they said no to. But they were able to reach some kind of compromise with me when I told them that I couldn't essentially apply for a new passport because I had fled my country and I had applied for asylum. And so I couldn't apply for a passport for my country because that would be considered availing yourself of the protections of your home country, even after having applied for asylum. So that would make it would complicate things for me. So once I told them that, they were like, if you have an expired passport, and a valid driver's license, be it from Cameroon or South Africa, we will take that. So fortunately, I happened to have had an expired passport all the way in South Africa. And so I had a friend send it over to me. And now the friend sent it to me on Friday, and the bar was on Tuesday. So he had to send rush straight to my hotel, and I had to, pick it all up and rush things. And, basically, long story short, I ended up taking the bar with that expired passport and the valid driver's license from Cameroon. But going through all of that just made me realize that immigrants in this country actually face a myriad of problems. And I just kind of wanted to situate myself to be, to be able to assist as many people as I could, many people who had been through or who were going through the same thing as I was. So I guess it's my personal experience coming from South Africa, where I used to be more in corporate law, that type of space. Even here, I did, dabble a little bit into compliance. I worked at, a bunch of financial institutions, including Morgan Stanley. But immigration law was just kind of something that I always wanted to go back to because of that personal experience, which I had gone through, and just wanting to make sure that I could do better for a lot of other people, especially the people who like me needed the same help, but who can't afford the help.
Right, man. That's wonderful, bro. I can see, the charity part of it, but yeah, at the same time, the monetary side of it, you just clash both of them together, you know what I mean? Right. I didn't have this question down, but as we were speaking, it just came to mind, right? In the past, even now, there are other immigration lawyers out there that really abuse their position, right? And they either charge too much or they have this crazy different ways of payments, or whatnot, right? You've probably been exposed to that, before even thinking of, taking the bar or what have you. Could you speak a little bit about, not just say snitch or anything, but some examples that you've seen in the past that you yourself, you taking strides to fix today?
Ah, man, that's an interesting one. So, I've obviously, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people who have suffered some kind of immigration fraud, usually not necessarily always from lawyers. There's some people who position themselves kind of like lawyers to help people complete forms and stuff. And then they charge them way too much money, to just complete an asylum form, for instance. They charge them like $3,500. And then they come to me, and then they want me to represent them in court. And then, when I ask for a comparable figure or more, then they tend to be like, oh no, but I already paid this guy so much money. And, it's just now I don't feel like I should have to pay again. And I feel so bad about those types of situations. And obviously I try my best to help them, while without necessarily starving myself, because obviously I have bills to pay. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know what it is that spurs people to do that, but I think that you have to be a special type of evil to take advantage of a vulnerable person.
Yeah, man, I agree, man. And these times, when you see a lot of people, taking vacations, or buying fancy, cars and stuff, is that time when, people will take advantage, of people in vulnerable, states as such. But I did want to ask you this too. Even practicing immigration law, again, there are other, types of law. Can you practice both at the same time? And if you can, what are the perks of that, and what are the disadvantages of that?
Okay, so that's also an interesting question. So I'm licensed in the state of New York, and I live in the state of Maryland, right? So as of right now, in the state of Maryland, I can only practice immigration law. Now, why is that? Well, because of something you said at the start, that his practice is limited to federal immigration law. That's because immigration law is controlled by the federal government, not the states.
Right.
So as a licensed attorney in one state, I can practice immigration law in all the states. Gotcha. Right. So that versatility, and given the fact that there's a lot of need for it in the community, is the reason that I chose to practice immigration law. Now, obviously, the moment I become licensed in the state of Maryland, I can then choose to practice other areas. Now, we spoke about this earlier. One area I would never ever practice personally is family. I mean, I just because it's very. I just feel like it's very heavy on the heart. Immigration is heavy enough. I just wouldn't add that to it. But in the state of New York, I can practice outside of immigration. I can practice criminal or essentially whatever I am qualified in, and I feel comfortable to be able to defend a client in.
Man, that's pretty dope. That's why y'all people make so much money, man. Jeez. Hey, listen, if you're looking for a secretary, man, I'm right here.
I would consider it, but I don't think I can afford you. So
yeah. Hey, listen, man. You spoke earlier about the bar, and when I hear people talking about the bar, it sounds so prestigious, man. Like it's like you've arrived. Talk to us about that. Like, when you took it, going into it, after it, waiting for your results and stuff like that. I mean, I know you'd be sense man, you had no problem with that, but just talk to us about that. And think about somebody who is either thinking of becoming a lawyer or they're in that process of it, right? And they're thinking, yo, man, this thing is really hard. Like, tell us what made you stick to it? What made you say, yo, I'm gonna finish this and I'm really boss up on this?
Right. Now, the first thing I have to say is just to dispel the notion that the bar is hard. The bar is not hard. The bar is, it could be complicated, especially if you don't prepare, it will get even worse, but generally the bar, I wouldn't say it's hard. I would say you just need to be adequately prepared for the bar. Now, I learned that I could take the bar in New York State. Sorry. I learned that about 2013. I just kept it at the back of my mind. So obviously when I moved to the United States, I decided to start preparing for the bar. I would say it took me about, and I don't know if my example is very good to go off of, but it took me about 4 months to prepare for the bar. I mean, it helped that I wasn't working at the time. I couldn't work. And so, it was the only thing that I did. But I also have to say the last 2 months of those 4 months was me thinking I wasn't going to be able to sit the bar because I had lost my passport, right? Because I didn't have paperwork. So I think that really complicated the process a little for me. In terms of I wasn't feeling motivated because I just felt like there could be a chance that I wouldn't even be able to sit the bar even if I prepared for it as best as I could. So I was very worried about that. Obviously it was a very difficult time, but I was still able to prepare, and I took the bar just once, and I took the very first uniform bar exam in New York, and I'm happy to say that even after just 4 months of preparation, and that's of intensive preparation, obviously, and with the cloud of not being able to take the bar over my head, I was still able to have the passing score for all 30 states at the time. Mm-hmm. So, and then some. So that's not to say that I am special. I'm not. I'm wholly foreign educated. I don't have a single day of US education. I literally started studying with the bar by going to George Washington University and, just asking around other kids who are studying with the bar, hey, can I use that book when you're not using that one? Can I use that book when, before my sister was able to buy me my books? So, that's how I started. That's how I started, preparing for the bar.
So wait, hold on. You're not just going speak your way past you didn't just say you didn't do a single day of education in the US, but then you were able to pass your bar. Wait, hold on. Let me ask you this. How long does it take to become a lawyer? How many years?
So I know in the state of New York, you have to have, had legal studies for at least 4 years, right? So at least 4 years of legal studies, which in America, that's the equivalent of a JD, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a Juris Doctor, but I had an LLB from Boya, which was 3 years, mm-hmm. right? So with 3 years in Boya and then 2 master's degrees from South Africa, 2 master's degrees in law, I was able to take the bar because that was over 4 years of legal education.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and having graduated from the University of Cape Town, which is, well, I guess I only found that out when I got here, right? Having graduated from the University of Cape Town, which is largely considered the best university in Africa, I was able to take the bar without taking any other examinations or any other LLMs or master programs mm-hmm. or whatever in the United States. So I was just able to just, go straight to it. Now, that's not to say if you didn't graduate from that school, you can, pretty much come from any other school. It's just that from that one, it was a lot more easy for me.
Yeah. There's that mentality that if you go study outside the United States, you can't bring the degree and use in the United States. What say you to that?
It is largely true. It is largely true, I would say, because, especially like if we're talking about legal studies in particular, it is very hard for you to get a job with a law firm in the United States if you are wholly foreign educated. That is part of the reason why I'm solo, right? That's part of the reason why I decided to build my business and do my thing. I would say there's a lot of truth to that. And so I would say anybody who's interested in studying law probably wants to give that a lot of consideration. And it's not just about going to law school in the US as well. It's also about the quality of the law school that you go to, especially depending on the types of jobs that you want to get. So I would say that's something which anybody who really is bent on having, let's say you want to be working one of the top law firms, you need to make sure that you go to one of the top law schools. Otherwise, your dreams of working for one of these top law firms is not going to come to fruition. It's an unfortunate reality, but that's not to say that you can't come from a foreign program and then land a good job. You can, but the chances of that happening are slim. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say slim to none. They're just slim, very slim.
Yeah. Before we get into, your very first case, being a Black man in America and a lawyer at that, has that been advantageous or has it had its ups and downs for you? Speak a little bit about that.
I've had mixed reactions to it, right? It's like just being a Black man and then being a young Black man who looks like this, it's just not, it's not been very, and obviously having an accent as well, so.
Fanboy, no pimple.
All of that stuff, it's kind of like, it's affected me in different ways, but I would say, considering I've never spent a single day as a white man or a Hispanic man, I'm not sure what their reality is like, but I can say that my experience would probably be the same as every other Black man that there is, every other Black immigration, not just immigration attorney, or well, at least most Black attorneys, especially the ones who are immigrants. Sometimes, when you sit in certain rooms and then you talk about yourself as an attorney, you command a degree of respect. Other times, you command a little bit of, a lot of people question you. A lot of people question, like, are you sure you're an attorney? I've had that a lot. I've had that from white folks as well as Black folks, and a lot of Cameroonians too, surprisingly. Even when I'm out there trying to offer my free legal services, people try to verify whether I'm an attorney. So it's
downplay you and stuff.
Yeah, and especially if they're older and then they see you look as young as I do, I guess, more or less. They try to make it seem like your contributions are not significant enough or not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I say to that is my work speaks for itself.
Period. Listen, let's just move on to the next. Talk to us about your very first case, man. Did you unfasten your your tie because it was too hot? Like, what was it like? Your very first case.
It was terrifying. It was terrifying. So the very first time I appeared in court was before a judge at the Baltimore Immigration Court. I'm not gonna name names, but he just so happened to be Black, right? So it was my very first appearance, and I think he was also licensed in New York, or he is still licensed in New York. I'm not sure, but the very first time I appeared, I obviously had no idea what I was doing. I mean, it's not like I had no idea what I was doing. I knew what I was doing, but at the same time, it was my first time actually doing it by myself, right? So, I was sweating. Everything was just wrong. Like, I was drenched up, and, I was in this suit, in the blue suits I'll never forget. And he starts asking me these questions, and then, he's very known for like using all the, like, he just gives you like this citations and sections, just like section this of this. And I was like, okay, so which one is that? What does that section, so that was me the whole time. And, obviously I was just sweating throughout. I was panicking, I was stammering the whole time. And I remember him asking me a couple of questions and I didn't know the answer to them. And he was like, well, you should know that, counsel. And I was like, oh crap, like, oh, what did I get myself into? But at the end of the hearing, he said the sweetest thing ever. Like, at the end, when I was about to, stand up, when it says case adjourned, I was about to stand up, and he was like, counsel, off the record, and he's like, just so you know, I can tell that you're a new attorney, and I can tell, is this your first time? And I was like, yes, it's my first time. And he was like, just so you know, I think you handled yourself well. It's like, I think you kept your composure, and I can't wait to have you appear before me again so I can assess, how you're doing. And I promise you, every single time that I had to appear before that same immigration judge, I was on my A game, I was confident, and I was able to deliver, because, that little vote, especially coming from a Black man, it really built some amount of excitement in me. And it made me think, it made me realize that even though I didn't get what I was doing at that time, if I just focused on what I was doing, I'll be able to hone my craft and just excel at what I do. And I've taken those words very seriously. And to this day, every time I appear before him, it's been sometimes contentious, but it's been great. It's always, he always reminds me, every chance he gets, he reminds me of that first day.
Yeah. That goes back to, us saying that you don't really have time reading all the books, man. You have to, be reading everything law to be on your,
Right.
your A game. Yeah.
Right.
Man, all this is all great and all, but the greatest part is being able to take your gift and really make the most out of it. For example, Babila Law LLC. What is that about? What made you start that? Man, like they say, the 5 whys, right? Just give us.
I mean, I started my firm basically because, I mean, I really love the practice of immigration law, right? I really enjoy it. I love being able to assist people who, like me, left perilous conditions in Cameroon, to be able to immigrate to the United States. And not just Cameroonians, but I love meeting people of different cultures. Now, I have a background as an English teacher. When I lived in South Africa, I used to teach English to people from different other cultures as well. Mm-hmm. So I've always loved working with people from diverse backgrounds, right? I've always loved working with people from different walks of life. And when I was thinking about this, this was in 2020, and I'm going to give a shout out to my sister, Nina, for her support. She basically is the one who talked me into doing what I'm doing right now. She was like, hey, because the thing is, at the time I was working at Morgan Stanley, mm-hmm. and I was doing a lot of pro bono. I actually was pro bono. I was a volunteer of the year twice, I believe. And it was just, she was like, you enjoy doing this thing, and you volunteer a lot, but you could make money off of it as well, and just do it on a daily basis. And I guess it took me a while. It took the pandemic actually hitting for me to realize that I could start my own thing by myself. And I guess what my concern was originally was, if I get into the practice of immigration law on a full-time basis, I don't have the notoriety that will be needed for me to be able to sustain myself on just that business, right? So when we go into COVID and we're working from home and we had a little more time, a little more flexibility, then I obviously had to look into the idea, because now I had a little more time. I was at home a little more. And so in March of 2020, I decided to start the practice. Mm-hmm. And I did that side by side with my other job for a while, until I finally decided to quit, and then just focus on this. And so I guess to your question, what actually drove me to immigration law, to starting my practice, is that desire to do better. To go back to your point earlier, some people just overcharge and underperform, and it's my goal to I guess apply the same amount of diligence to every single case that I apply to my own case. It's my goal to make sure that anybody who was forced to flee from their country is never forced to return to their country. It's my goal to make sure that people who come into my door, even if they can't afford my services, I give them something that will make them better. Like, I just have to give them something, because I think it is my belief, and I would love to be proven wrong. I think that the people who are most deserving of our help usually cannot afford our help.
Yeah. Hey, bro, like, you dropping a lot of germs right now. I'm like, damn. Before I go to my next question, can you please just tell the people watching, one, just plug in how they can get in contact with you, your social handles, emails, phone numbers, all that good stuff. How can they get in contact with you?
All right, so I'm in the process of rebuilding my website, so that would have been my very first one, but it will be back up soon. That will be babilalaw.com. My email, until that website is back up, my email will be babila.junior, spelled out, so babila.junior @gmail.com. And my direct phone number will be 240-879-6523. That's my business phone number. I have it right here, this little phone. And obviously I'm always there, always able to take calls, and if I miss a call, I usually am good enough about responding to it as soon as I can. But yeah, that's how you can reach me. Oh, Instagram, obviously I'm active on Instagram, but I generally tell my followers, not my followers, I tell my clients not to follow me on social media, because I tell them, hey, listen, if you come to my social media, you're going to have to realize that my social media is my social media, which means I will be the lawyer, I will be the turn-up king, I will be the fashion guy, I will be the whatever I need to be. That's my personality, and that's just how it is. I'm never going to change for anybody else. But my business's social media, my law firm's social media is also at Babila Law. My personal social media is at Babila Terence. That's not the US Terence, that's a UK Terence with one R. So that's TERENCE. So, connect with me. I would love to chat with you. And if you have an immigration issue, I would recommend connecting to my business profile, of course.
Yeah. Man, listen, mine is on AK. You know, the US one is 1L. The UK one, the UK one is 1L too. But you live every day. I'm learning something new, man. But anyways, it was pretty cool. Listen, I've been, I was stalking your social media a little bit, you know what I mean? And, you keep typing TPS, temporary protection status, TPS. And I'm like, man, what's TPS, man? What the hell is this thing about? Like, please break it down for us. What is TPS? What countries are involved in this? You know what? Please tell us first of all what TPS is.
Okay, so TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status, and I hope I did a good job explaining it on social media. If I didn't, well, yeah, here we go. So TPS stands for Temporary Protected Status. It's a non-immigrant status that is usually granted to certain nationals of certain countries, which are usually going through, I would say, like maybe sometimes an economic or humanitarian disaster of sorts. Which then allows the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security to designate that country for temporary protected status. So what that means is nationals from that country who can comply to certain rules, right? In their designation, the Secretary would usually state, hey, they should have been here by this date and they should still be here, right? So nationals of that country who meet those, I guess, rules, or who meets the requirements are usually able to then apply for TPS. So TPS usually would last for about 18 months and it gets redesignated every before its expiration. So you would either, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security would either redesignate 6 months prior to the expiration date, or would announce that, hey, the designation of TPS for this country will no longer, like this will be the final designation. So usually that's how it works. So as of right now, I think, and I could be wrong, but I think there are 15 countries which are designated with TPS. In Africa, we have Somalia, we have, I want to say South Sudan, and then Cameroon in Africa. But, the other countries, Afghanistan, Yemen,
right.
Honduras, Haiti, El Salvador, Venezuela, these are all countries which have been designated for TPS. So that's what TPS is. It's a temporary status. It doesn't, it doesn't technically have a pathway to a green card or citizenship, but it's usually for 18 months at a time. It gives you a right to stay in the United States. So if you are in temporary protected status, you cannot be forcibly removed from the United States or detained for an immigration violation. And you can also get a work permit, which obviously will come with a social security card, all that kind of stuff, which is very vital to the community. And you can also get a travel document, which will allow you to be able to leave the country. As you know, many undocumented immigrants many of them have not been able to leave the country for several years due to the fear of not being able to return if they left. So yeah, so it's a very huge win. And I would just like to shout out the Cameroon Advocacy Network Group. They are the ones who won TPS. I mean, I know I'm associated with them now, but I wasn't always. So I wasn't part of I wasn't a large part of the advocacy for TPS by any means. Those guys were, and they did an excellent job. And now it's the pleasure of my lifetime, honestly, to be able to assist them to complete as many TPS applications as possible. I promised myself I was going to do 100 of them for my birthday. I'm very close to that mark. My birthday has passed, but yeah, I'm still very close to that mark to hit my pro bono goal.
Oh wow, man! Kudos to you, man. You're doing something good for the community, and at the same time, still making your bread. You know what I mean? So there's no other combination, really, if you think about it. There's really no other combination. You're doing what you love, and you're making money off of it. What are some downsides to this?
To TPS?
Yeah, I mean, just to, being a lawyer. I mean, it's all good and all, but I mean, there are days when you're just like, oh, man, I don't want to do this shit, man. Like,
oh man,
I don't feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, talk to us about those days. Those days that you just feel like, yo, this thing is draining, or TP is draining. Like, and how
that's the downside. Like that right there, honestly, that's a downside. It's because I think when you do something like immigration because you love it, It's easy to get so emotionally involved in every single case. I'll just give you a personal case without obviously mentioning any names, but I lost the case in November of 2020, and to this day I still have sweats sometimes at night. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just think about it. So when CPS was actually granted for Cameroon, and mind you, I didn't even do the primary case. I just helped them do the appeal, and obviously it wasn't successful. But when CPS was granted for Cameroon, that was the very first person that I called, that person whose case I lost, because all of a sudden now I had a way to help them out, to give them, something in this country, so I reached out to them and I connected with them that same day, and we got the application prepared, completed, it was mailed out the next day, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I was happy to pay for the application myself because I just felt like I owed them. So that's the downside of this. It's like especially if you're putting your heart to it, if it doesn't go well, it really messes me up for a couple of days, months, in this case, over a year. It is very emotionally draining. But I can tell you this, the wins, they make it all worth it. They make it all worth it. When you turn around and call and then you look at that family, or you look at your client who's sitting next to you and you think about their children who are back home, you just like, wow, or you think about, you just even the smallest things, like helping people apply for their work permits and then they get their work permits. And then, the person goes like, I cannot wait to be able to support my family back home. If I don't know if you know this, but one of the largest sources of money back home in Cameroon is foreign remittances, from the United States as well as other countries. But the United States takes the cake in terms of how much of that money is supporting our people back home. So, just being able to help somebody get their work permit, and then, you hear them say, oh man, I will spoil them, I'll bless them, man, that it makes up for all the bad times. I'll tell you that much.
Man, listen, man. I remember the very first time I held a work permit. You don't understand, man. The joy is different. The joy is different. I'm not gonna lie, man. The joy is different. And then to even go further to like a green card and your naturalization and all that stuff is different. Some people don't understand that, of course. But to those who go through that process, it's a big deal.
And just not to cut you short, but I started helping people become citizens and have green cards before I ever got mine. So it was like I was seeing people experiencing joy that I was hoping to experience someday.
Yeah.
So it was just so fulfilling. It was still fulfilling. I was like, there were certain days when I go like, you know what, even if they were to deport me from this country right now, I did my job, man.
Yeah.
Like I did something, I kept, a family together. I did something. And so, I mean, the joy is different, man. It really is very rewarding.
Yeah. I mean, I could imagine, walking into a function and there's just that family or a couple of families you help them, like, oh yeah, that's that guy. That guy.
And you wouldn't believe how many times it happens, man. Like every time I go to like one of these are little food places, around, especially here in Maryland, man. I the moment I get there, usually to take my order to go or whatever, I would have somebody give Metro beer, Metro drink some wine, and coming from where we come from, it's just very you can't really say no to drinks, especially if it's coming from an elder. So I usually just be like, hey, can I take it to go, because I still have a drive in front of me. But fortunately, people are usually respectful of that, and so it's great. But man, I tell you, it's so rewarding, especially when the families come and then they bring the whole family to come say hi. Man, I promise you, that's the best. You see little cute kids, and I love kids, so it's just
man, it's not just work anymore. You become a mentor too. It's like, hey man, work hard because exactly. Definitely. Do you think the immigration process is going to tighten up some more or loosen up some?
You know what? I think immigration is one of the most divisive subjects in the country right now, right? And you have, people on one hand who don't want any immigration whatsoever, and then the people on the other hand who, are more open to immigration. And then you have a lot of people in the middle who are like, hey, we can get immigrants here, but can't we have like some kind of, merit-based system, as opposed to, a lot of people make a lot of noise about the lottery. And they're like, oh yeah, we need something that's going to contribute to the economy, that's going to turn the economy around. In terms of what I think or what I hope is going to happen in the immigration space over the next couple of years, I honestly think it's going to tighten up some. And that's because, I just think that the rhetoric around immigration law is getting more and more vitriolic. Like it's not very, very much of it is not genuine, is not true, is not, they're just throwing a whole lot of crap in it, basically, excuse my French. But it's, I think that is a disservice. Essentially, they're fear mongering, and I think that it's taking a toll on people. It's having an effect on the voting population in particular. So I think that invariably we're going to move towards a less immigrant-friendly direction. Now, that said, I would say that the current administration has honestly alleviated some of the concerns that were meted by the past administration, even though I think that they have been, I would say, prevented from being as effective as they probably would have been, by obviously the deadlock in Congress, as well as the fact that, the COVID, has affected all walks of life. So, yeah. I think that it will get worse, but hopefully we somehow come back to remember that this is a nation of immigrants. This is built by immigrants. This whole country is made up of immigrants, and we can go back to those little words written on the Statue of Liberty. I don't know exactly what they are. I probably should give me my line of work, but yeah, I think it's something along the effects of "Give me your tired." Yeah. Give me those people. Yeah. So I think I hope that we don't move towards a completely merit-based immigration system, because honestly, I think that that's good. I think we have something like that already. Mm-hmm. I think that the lottery, for instance, is the only way by which you get regular folks to be able to come to the United States. Because if you think about it, the rich folks, they have all the H-1Bs and all the fancy visas that they can use to come here. But regular folks who are unskilled, who maybe just have a high school degree or high school diploma or whatever, many of them would not be able to come to the United States if we went to that strict, I guess, skills-based way of entry.
Right. Man, let's go back a little bit to the temporary protection status, right? I know I believe there's a lot of FAQs that come your way on a daily basis, right? Absolutely. What are some of those frequently asked questions that you would like to answer while I got you here, and stuck in the podcast, man? Like, drop some things.
Right. So it's always weird when I get to ask my own questions and answer them, but but I would give you some of the ones that I've actually gotten. Let me think. I think the one that I get the most is from people who ask, so I've applied for asylum. Can I still apply for TPS? Is it going to affect my asylum case? Now, I get that question a lot, almost every day, I would say. And my answer to that question is generally no. And I'll explain exactly why I say generally no. Now, if you apply for asylum, there are two ways by which you can do it, right? Sometimes you have to do both. Other times you do one, and then you do only just one. So you can apply for asylum either in the immigration court, or you can apply for asylum before the USCIS office. Mm-hmm. Now, where you can apply for asylum will depend on how you entered the country, right? So if you entered the country and you were paroled, which means you got into a plane and you had a visa and everything, you would usually apply for asylum by applying to USCIS, right? But if you enter the country through the southern border, the northern border, however, without valid documents or whatever the case, you would have to apply for asylum in immigration courts, right? Because you will be placed into removal proceedings and then you apply for asylum in immigration court. So if you entered through the southern border and you're in immigration court and you want to apply for TPS, If your question is, will it affect my case? The answer is an emphatic no. It would not affect your case. Now, why would it not affect your case? Well, because the issue of your removability can still be determined whether or not you have TPS. Mind you, TPS is temporary protected status. So if you, let's say you appeared in immigration court and you had an asylum matter, and then the judge finds that you're ineligible for asylum and you have TPS, guess what happens? They cannot remove you from the United States. You would have to stay in the United States until your TPS lapses. And then at that point, they'll be able to effect your removal from the United States, right? So if you have TPS and you're in immigration court, your hearing can still go along. And then at the end, the judge can just say, okay, fine, I'm ordering you removed from the United States. But, you have your TPS right now. So, we're just going to hold on. We're just going to wait until when that TPS expires, and then you have to leave, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that. Now, if you're still at USCIS, because usually what happens is when you apply, let's say you flew into the country, you were paroled into the country, you apply USCIS says no, they transfer it to immigration court, right? Okay. So if you're still at USCIS level and you apply for TPS and you're granted TPS, and then you're called in for your USCIS interview, and then during that interview, the officer finds that you're not eligible for asylum. Yes, the part that it comes to yes, it can affect your case. In that case, because you are in valid TPS status, the officer cannot send your case to court because you are in valid status. So the officer would wait until set time when your TPS status, lapses, for you to be able to, for them to be able to send the case over to the immigration court. So it would affect your case in that, in case, obviously, let's say you had your family back home and you're willing to have them come over here, you want to get your asylum case done and all that. Obviously, if you get denied at the USCIS office and your family's in danger back home, you would rather have the case sent to the immigration court quickly so that, hopefully the court disagrees with the officer and grants you asylum, right? And then you can start moving your family over here. So that's how it could affect you because in that case, they would not send your case to court. They will hold it off until TPS until TPS lapses, and then at which point then they would send it off to the immigration court. So that is the little technicality. But I would say in general, if you're in immigration court already, it would not affect applying for TPS. Would not affect your status, because that's I would say the beauty of the American immigration law system. You can literally be a TPS recipient who is also an asylum applicant, who is also married to a U.S. citizen who has filed for him, and who is working for a company, such as Stock in the Middle, that has filed for them and is giving them an employer-based green card. All those things can be happening at the same time.
So there's no fear of whatsoever, just, trust the process and, just follow it.
Right. And obviously, if the more complicated your situation is, you obviously want to talk to an experienced immigration attorney.
Man, last question. last question, but I'm not going to keep you further past, an hour mark. What are some key things there's some people out there, like we all know, who probably did not go to law school, or who are not, an attorney, and, just, practicing just because they think that, they know, or because of the money, right? What are some things that, people can look for when talking to an attorney, or a lawyer? What are some key things that people should absolutely look out for? Some no-nos, like, you see that, run away.
Right. So you wanna start by asking them, if they're licensed. You want to ask them, where their license is, if you could see their license. You want to ask them, you want to ask them, if they've done this before, what their experience is. And you also want to look up, usually you want to talk to other people who maybe they've represented. If you know any of such people, you want to ask them what their experience was. The one thing I would say is there's a lot of notarial fraud, which is fraud by people who are notary publics, who kind of like, because they help people with legal documents on a daily basis, they almost masquerade themselves as lawyers who can assist you with any petitions or whatever. Now, that's not to say everybody who is a notary public is a fraud of sorts. But I would generally say if you're looking for a legal service, you want to find a lawyer. If you're looking for a medical service, you want to find a doctor. You're not going to be looking for a medical service and you go find, a person who's not a doctor, right? So it's like for the same thing, you're not going to want a legal service and you go find a non-lawyer. So you want to start by asking them, where are you licensed? And then ask, okay, what is your bar number? And then go to that state, look them up by their bar number, look them up by their names, and see if you can find their information, see if you can find how long they've been licensed. All of that information is public information. You can find that online. So you want to be on the lookout for that. You want to make sure that you're verifying the credentials of anybody you're talking to, and also you have to read, man. You just have to read, because a lot of that, let's say I'll see a lot of asylum forms from so many people will come to me and be like, hey, this guy helped me file for asylum, and then he did a terrible job. And I'll just example here. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see it, but this is an asylum form right here. Mm-hmm. This is at the bottom of the asylum form. There's a place that says preparer information. If anybody's assisting you with any application and he doesn't complete that preparer information, that person is most likely a scammer, because that is the part that says that, hey, I prepared this application for this person, and so I am knowledgeable enough to be able to prepare this application. So usually all those fraudulent people, they never complete that part, because they don't want there to be any way whereby the USCIS or whoever can look for them, can try to pin it on them, be like, hey, you did this, you made this mistake, you made this error, not the client, whatever the case may be. So if somebody's assisting you to prepare any immigration form, anybody who is not your, who's not yourself, who is not your spouse, who's not your parents, who's not your child, they have to complete the preparer portion of the form. If your preparer is not completing that portion of the form, they are most likely a scammer.
Yeah. Man, listen, stay away from, the scammers. There's already enough for your credit card, your address and everything. Don't come and get scammed with immigration status too.
Yeah, because that's messed up, man. That could
messed up all the way, man. All the way. Yeah. Man, we've covered a lot. You've dropped a lot of knowledge. Last question. I know I said that was the last, but it's definitely the last one. Is there anything that, we haven't touched on that you would like for the, the viewers and the listeners to know?
I would just want to go back to TPS. I just want to go back to TPS real quick and just advice, especially this. Now I'm talking directly to the Cameroonians. Please, 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 please listen to me, and not just me, but listen to people who are knowledgeable on this subject. Do not take my legal knowledge and compare it to what you heard from that neighbor who just always stays in his apartment, or who you always meet at that drinking spot. It's not the same thing. Just like you would never go to a pharmacist and then the pharmacist tells you what medications to take and how to take them, and then you go and you compare that to the person in the cafe, that's just not how it works. So please get informed on something. If you want to know what TPS is, please reach out to me, reach out to somebody, have them explain to you what TPS is. Schedule a consultation before you just do not apply, because as you all know, you have to apply for TPS before the cutoff date. Is going to be December 7, 2023. You have to make sure your application is in. That's the initial registration period. You have to make sure your application is in before then. You don't want to be filing a late TPS application. And to be eligible for TPS, these are the requirements. You must be a citizen or national of Cameroon, right? You must have been in the United States on or before April 14th, 2022. And you must have continuously resided in the United States from June 7th, 2022. So what does that mean? That means if you're an F1 student and you have your valid F1 status, but you meet those other requirements, and then now, you want to be able to travel to whichever country, let's say Switzerland or Bahamas or whatever, and you've applied for TPS, you could run afoul of that continuous residence continuous residence requirement if you left the country. So you want to apply for advanced parole before you leave to say, hey, I'm still residing in the United States, because you could lose your eligibility for TPS by just leaving the country and coming back. Because when you leave, you're no longer continuously resident since June 7th, even though you were a year before April 14. It's not as easy as just submitting another application. The requirements are that you should be continuously resident. And how do you show your eligibility? I'm just going to drop this free stuff there. How do you show your eligibility? If you came in through an airplane, please go on the I-94 website, put in your last name as it appears on your passport, put in your first name as it appears on your passport, put in your date of birth, obviously as it appears on your passport, and I hope that's correct. Put in your passport number and hit search. Download your I-94. That is what is going to show that you were a year before April 14, 2022. And then the second requirement is that you have to show continuous residence since June 7, 2022, right? So how do you show that? Obviously, if you're in this country and you don't have a social security number, guess what? You probably don't have a bank account. You probably don't have a lease that's in your name. You probably don't have a driver's license. You probably don't have insurance, all these things that you'll be able to show that you have been residing in the United States. So what do? Go to your church, talk to your pastor, ask them to write a little letter, say, hey, he has been worshiping with us since so-and-so year. Go to your landlord, go to your cousin, go to your brother, ask them to write a letter, say, hey, he has been, he has lived with us for X period of time. Look for any tickets that you ever bought to travel to any other place, be it by bus or whatever. As long as your name and the date is on that document, you can use it to show that you're continuously residing in the United States. Look for your COVID vaccination card. Look for pictures of you that are dated, that have a date at the bottom. Sometimes you use also our cameras that has a little date. Use for dated pictures. If you had a picture of you holding a newspaper with a date on it, look for that picture too. Just prove that you have been continuously resident in the United States, in addition to having been here from April 14. And please, if you're eligible for TPS, if you're not a US citizen, a US national, or a green card holder, and you're originally from Cameroon, please apply for TPS before the cutoff date. That's it.
Yes, sir.
And you don't need a lawyer to apply for TPS too. You can apply online. But if you do feel like you do need a lawyer, there's me and there's several other lawyers that will be happy to assist you as well.
Yeah, man. Second pair of eyes will not hurt. And definitely, people who have walked the walk and are doing the doing will do it better than you. You know what I mean? But not to say that you cannot do it by yourself. I'm just saying,
right.
You get better results once you get the, the experts in it. Man, please plug in your social handles again for those who did not get the first time.
On Instagram, it will be at Babila Terence. That's Babila Terence. On Facebook will be Babila Terence. The business is obviously at Babila Law, BABILALAW, on both Instagram as well as Facebook. Obviously, I'm most active on those, but I also can be reached on WhatsApp. For the business, it will be my 240-879-6523. That's the business's line, and it's also available for chats on WhatsApp. But if you connect to either the Instagram profile for the business, you can always, there's a link there to WhatsApp to just start chatting immediately to set up a consultation or to ask about the next pro bono session. I always encourage people to reach out to me regardless of whether they can afford me or not. If I just can't do them pro bono, do their work pro bono, I'm good with giving them some kind of information that can assist them as well.
That's how networking begins, man. Somebody knows somebody that you don't know, that knows somebody that you don't know. and then you find yourself talking to somebody that you didn't know that you know now. But anyways, man, I appreciate your time, bro. This was really, great knowledge, and I'm definitely gonna be talking to you again on this platform. Next time, I hope that we'll have some callers call in, plug in the machine, have some callers call in, ask some questions live, and you get to chat it up, with some guests. We could coordinate that. We could talk about that offline. So let me stop talking, man. He's the founder of Babila Law LLC, an immigration law firm practice limited to federal immigration law and other things. Just hit him up. You never know, man. He might probably throw your bone. Never know. I'm telling you, man. Closed mouths don't get fed. You would not know till you ask. So it's not. I mean, you don't got to pay him $1. Just say, hey, can I consult? He can tell you no. He can tell you yes.
Right.
But he's not going to charge you $1 just for that initial talk. So, what are you waiting for, bro? I appreciate your time. Let's do this again. Thank you for this episode.
Thank you, brother. Cheers.
I'm Uncle AK. My guest, Babila Terence, my lawyer, my immigration lawyer. Shout out, hit him up. Shout out to you too. Keep doing your thing, man. Keep shining, keep flourishing. More wins to you, brother. This is SitM Podcast, and we are out.